I'm Jimmy Phelps, and Patricia and I own, and our son Brian on Phelps Hill Farm out on Highway 13, just past what used to be Pete Lewis store. It was Terry Beard and I spent a lot of time tonight trying to figure out, but as far as we can trace it back was to the Parchman family in 1867 when Jesse Parchman, which Terry and everybody that was a Parchman was named Jesse or Milton in the 1860s, so I won't mind for that. But anyway, uh, he bought it from the Kaisers. He bought it from the Kaisers, and we don't know if we were related to the Kaiser or not. But anyway, that's as far back as we know we were related was to Jesse Parchman in 1867. And it came down through about 6 generations to Patricia and I and Brian, and we still try to farm a little bit, and got a few goats, and used to have horses and bird dogs. We kind of got out of the dog business and horse business, but the Century Farm is like I tell people it's like my bass boat and my Valium and all those things. It's I catch myself sometimes just walking around looking up in the air. I don't know. It's I don't know what it is that makes farmers farmers, but it is a great honor that our family has held on to it all those years, and a great honor that I had a family that wanted me to have it, and a lot of the things I had on my mind I was going to talk about tonight, Terry Beard done talked about, was all the neighbors we had, but he didn't say anything about Pete Lewis's store, and probably if it hadn't have been for Pete Lewis's store, we would have probably lost the farm a long, long time ago. My mother told me that they bought groceries at Pete Lewis's store for a year at a time, sell the tobacco, start all over, charge it the next week. But Grice's Creek is a great community, and the best neighbors in the world, and a lot of them are gone, but a lot of them are still there. But that's probably the best part of the Century Farm is the neighbors.
Thank you, Mr. Jimmy. I have to say, I have a lot of fond memories for Pete Lewis's store, too. I remember going down there with my daddy and getting that little Coke out of the old Coke machine and having to, pop the top. Of course, kids don't know what that is now, and I also remember every Wednesday, my grandmother at Lewis, that was the only place she went grocery shopping. And I think he special ordered half the stuff that he knew she was going to pick up for that next week. So it's a lot of good people out there. Now we're going to hear from Valley View Farm. She's going to be pulling double duty for us tonight. And I skipped one. She's going to talk about Twin Cedars, and she's also going to talk about Valley View. And you'll have to check out their wine selection in there.
I'm going to talk about Twin Cedars first, because my cousin Jane Newman couldn't be here tonight. She's inherited the farm, which has come down through our family. Originally, it was purchased in 1833 by James Henson, and it's been passed down through the Henson family from James to his son James G. He's handed it down to his daughter and son, and it was split at that time. Oh, and Alice, the daughter, inherited 83 acres, and that's where Alice's daughter Mabel inherited it, and then from Mabel came Sarah Dixon, who inherited the farm, and Sarah, of course, had no children. Now her niece Jane Newman owns the farm. It's located on both sides of Yellow Creek, close to, we're talking about stores, I know where Lucky's is now, but where Mr. Gordon used to have his store. And we used to get to the house by going on a low water bridge across Yellow Creek. Now you get to it off of Williamson Branch, getting in the back way. The house burned down in the, I think it was 1970s, early 70s. And Sarah built that pretty little brick house, and now it's still a working farm. Keith Stanfill runs cattle and keeps up the fences, and Stanfill lives in the house now. But that's the Twin Cedars farm. The Valley View farm is the where I live. It came into the Dixon family in 1803 when Hugh Dixon, Mr. Beard was talking about all of the name repetition in his family. Hugh is the name that has been repeated in the Dixon family. Hugh Dixon bought 150 acres of a land grant, and in the next few years he purchased more, and I think he finally got 383 acres of that land grant. He left the farm to his 12 children, and I was blessed enough for his son Hugh, James Dixon, to purchase out his siblings part of the farm and keep those 383 acres in one family. He and James left the farm to his children, but his son James Wiley bought out his sisters. He left the farm to his children, but his son Benjamin Hugh bought out his sisters. Benjamin Hugh left the farm intact to my mother, Edna Dixon. Mother left the farm to me, Vanetta, and my sister Suzanne. And most of you remember my sister, she passed away about a year and a half ago. So now Alan McCampbell, my brother-in-law, and I are the proprietors of Valley View Farms. It's still a working farm. Like Stanfill and Juanita won cattle and keep fences up. What we would do in that end of the county without the Stanfills, I'm not sure. They've got their fingers in every pie. And I'm staying up here doing Sarah's because Deborah wouldn't get up and do it. Of the crop that Valley View has is we do have a vineyard. And if y'all want to go in and check out the auction, we've got a couple of our wines in the auction. So that's it for Valley View.
And now we come down to our last but not least farm. And this is where I was in a state of confusion for 4 years. I figured out this summer. I did not realize there were 2 Welker Century farms. So I had been inviting Bobby and Juanita, who I had never met either. And I actually met Juanita in the spring on a school bus. And I was like, oh, I've been looking for you. So then I go to Leatherwood this summer and sit down with my lake neighbors. And they're like, oh yeah, we got a Century farm. And I'm like, oh, yeah? And then they finally explained to me that there's 2. So I did send a letter of apology to Bobby and Juanita and said I didn't realize you were in Montgomery County. And Mr. Welker here tonight is with our Houston County Century farm. And I apologize for that.